When you're against legal immigration, you're against America. Because what makes this country great is the legal immigration, is the fact that this is a nation of immigrants.
More so than any other group that I could find, the group of voters who became more hawkish on immigration were in fact immigrants themselves, immigrants who are registered to vote in this country.
This morning, CNN's Harry Enton revealed that the voters who have shifted the most to the right on the topic of immigration policy are actually immigrants themselves. So there had already been polling and data to indicate that naturalized citizens had shifted somewhat to the right when it came to immigration policy. But this latest polling really shows you the extent to which they have. And so according to Enton, those numbers really help to explain part of what's motivating President Donald Trump to do what he's been doing in cities like Los Angeles. So before we get to that though, let's watch Enton explain how immigrants used to feel toward the Democratic Party's handling of immigration.
Closest to or trust more in immigration. You go back to 2020. Democrats, get this, held a 32-point lead on this issue. Immigrant voters were in the Democratic camp. Jump forward to 2024, 2025. Look at that shift, a 40-point shift to the right among immigrant voters. Republicans now lead on this issue by 8 points over Democrats.
All right, so now immigrant voters also feel much differently about the undocumented immigrants now compared to 2020. So you get the context of how they used to feel. How are they feeling now? Let's take a look.
The net favorable rating, immigrants who are here illegally among immigrant citizens, again, those registered to vote. In 2020, look at this, plus 23 points on the net favorable rating. But look at where we were in 2024, minus 6 points, underwater. So immigrant citizens have become increasingly unfavorable in their views of those immigrants who are here illegally.
And guess what? That shift goes beyond the issue of immigration specifically. So it also plays out in the number of immigrant voters who voted for Trump in 2016 versus 2024. And so I'm gonna explain what I think about all of this. I just want you to have all the numbers first. So let's take a quick look at that and then I'll fill in the blanks.
You remember when he first ran back in 2016, immigrant voters were one of his weakest spots. But look at this, Trump's vote share in presidential election among, again, immigrant citizens, those who are registered to vote. Look at this, in 2016, he got 36% of the vote. You go to 2020, 39% of the vote. Look at this, in 2024, all the way up to 47% of the vote. Some polls I looked at had him barely losing that vote. Some polls I looked at had him barely winning that vote. Again, there is no block of voters that shifted more to the right from 2020 to 2024 than immigrant voters.
Now, before we get to Enton's analysis of all of this, why this big shift exists to begin with, what he thinks is motivating it, I just want to say I told you. I told you. So in the lead up to the presidential race, for everyone who was mad and upset at me when I drew attention to the fact that there was a migrant crisis at the border, that Greg Abbott busing or flying migrants to big blue cities like Chicago, LA, whatever, all of these big blue, New York City is another example, Colorado, Denver. I knew that that was going to have an impact on the outcome of the presidential race, but I also knew that it would have an overall impact on the public's sentiment toward immigration policy. There is a reason why even today, Trump enjoys a slim majority of support among Americans when it comes to his immigration policies. And it's because the Democrats dropped the ball. When you drop the ball and you have a migrant crisis and you essentially respond to that migrant crisis by telling Americans it doesn't exist, it's all in your imagination, you're crazy, oh, you must be a bigot for even mentioning it, that leads to backlash. That leads to resentment. Now, of course, the Biden administration and the Democrats realized, oh wow, we did drop the ball. This is going to be a political liability for the 2024 presidential election. Maybe we should do something. Let's hit up our homeboy, Senator Lankford from Oklahoma, and get him to write, a right-wing immigration bill that will quickly pass in order to ensure that this immigration issue isn't a problem for us electorally. Well, obviously, they dropped the ball so badly that the Republicans had no incentive to help them. Trump had no incentive to want to help Biden or Kamala Harris. So, of course, he stood in the way of passing that bill. He blocked that bill. Guys, there are consequences when the Democratic Party creates a vacuum and doesn't appropriately respond to the concerns of the American people. When the American people say, we are worried about this, we are struggling with this, we need your help, and the response from the Democrats is, it's not happening, that vacuum that's created then gets filled by the party who says, we have a plan, we have a solution, we're gonna do something about it. And by that point, there's so much resentment built in these various communities that have been, dealing with an influx of migrants that they're willing to accept some of the most draconian immigration policies. And that's where we currently are at. So when I talk about these things, I just want to make it very clear. I don't talk about these things because I hate immigrants. My parents are immigrants. I grew up in a community of immigrants. People who want to come to this country should have a legal pathway to citizenship. We need to fix our broken immigration system. But I mention these things specifically because my job here is to give analysis and talk about how the Democratic Party could have moved forward in a way that was electorally beneficial for them. But rather than take any responsibility, both the Democratic Party and the people who like to provide cover for their failures jump down my throat and accuse me of being a Trump fanatic for speaking out against the failures of the Democratic Party. Okay, well, now you're seeing what we're dealing with as a result of those failures. And maybe we learn lessons moving forward, but I doubt it. I doubt it. Now, with that in mind, let's hear what Harry Enten has to say.
So I think it's so important when we're talking about this debate from a political angle to separate those out who are undocumented immigrants versus those who are here legally and those who are citizens and those who are voters, because that group of voters has felt increasingly distant from those immigrants who are here legally. And so again, when we're talking about this, at least from a political angle, this is why Donald Trump feels so comfortable, because in fact, amongst the group that you would think that would be most opposed to this, in fact, they become increasingly favorable, not just towards Donald Trump, but towards a Republican point of view on immigration and becoming distant from those immigrants who are here illegally.
And the other thing is, look, there are people who came to this country the legal way, and they went through the insanely difficult process of becoming American citizens. Becoming a naturalized citizen is not easy. And so I'm sure that, among some of these people who have gone through that process, there's a bit of resentment. It's like, what the hell? It's costly, it's difficult, it's time consuming, it takes years, but I went through it the legal way. Why can't everyone else? But look, for those who are naturalized citizens who kind of share that sentiment, I just want to say, it shouldn't be so difficult that people give up on the legal process of entering the country and becoming naturalized citizens, that they then resort to doing it illegally, right? We do have a broken immigration system, and it's broken on purpose. I want to be clear about that. You think employers want to fix our broken immigration system so people have a legal pathway to citizenship, where they have, whatever labor protections we have on a federal level, where they have to get paid minimum wage or else the workers would have recourse against the employer? No, they don't want that. The broken immigration system has benefited corporations the most, companies the most, the agriculture industry in this country the most. So we have to be clear about that as well. Now, Steve Bannon referenced this data and this polling that was reported by Harry Enten during a segment in which he called for the arrests of 10 million illegal immigrants. Our economy would be destroyed. Okay, I don't think people realize just how disastrous that would be. And no, I'm not going to make those gross, callous statements about how we need immigrants to clean our houses or no. But immigrants do a lot of important jobs throughout this country. So just flat out deporting 10 million people is going to be disruptive, to say the least. And not just disruptive to their lives, disruptive to all of our lives and to our economy. He also wants Alejandro Mayorkas and former President Joe Biden to be arrested. Okay, so here's what he said this morning. ICE should triple down today in Los Angeles. All 10 million have to go. Does he think all 10 million are in LA? Like, what is that? All 10 million have to go, not just the criminals and the insane asylum. The Democrats are on the wrong side of this. Look at Harry Enton. We can play much more of Harry Enton sitting there going, this is absolutely the issue the United States wants. They want their sovereignty back. And then he says, you know who wants it? Hispanic citizens and African-American citizens. They want these festering, okay, I don't even want to read this, but these festering sores of these big cities like Los Angeles cleaned up, the schools cleaned up, the medical system cleaned up. And at the same time, let's get Mayorkas and Biden and the entire crowd, arrest them. Meanwhile, the likes of Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec, and Matt Walsh are calling for a ban on immigration altogether. And note how they all have the same wording in their posts. Seems like this is an organized, orchestrated thing. They're taking orders from someone and being good boys and essentially posting the exact same wording here. And this is what it says. It's time to ban third world immigration. Yeah, third world immigration built this country. Okay. But anyway, legal or illegal. I mean, at least they're telling the truth now, because before they hid the ball, right? They were pretending like, no, we're not against immigrants. We're just against illegal immigration. We're not against, you guys are against immigrants, period. Whether legal or illegal, as they're clearly stating right there. And it's disgusting. This crap is disgusting. This is the crap that, in my view, is totally un-American. When you're against legal immigration, you're against America. Because what makes this country great is the legal immigration, is the fact that this is a nation of immigrants. Okay, living in a diverse place like Los Angeles is not a knock on Los Angeles. That's actually one of the best things about living in LA. It's just so utterly disgusting and gross. And like, who's your boss? Who are you serving as a puppet for here? Like literally the exact same wording in all three of these tweets. I understand wanting to control immigration because we do have finite resources. I'm not an open borders person. And I think most people, if they stop and actually think about what open borders mean, they wouldn't be open borders either. But this isn't about controlling immigration. This is just about preventing immigrants from coming in under any and all circumstances. And I find that gross. Now, Matt Walsh responded to a post calling out that almost identical messaging. I'll just say it. Nick Fuentes called him out for similar messaging. Not even similar, it's like word for word the same tweets. And then so did Ian Smith. I love how the conservatives have always pointed out that the liberals and their politicians put out brand messaging at the same time, as if they were given some sort of memo from their higher ups. This is definitely not what is happening right here. Take a look at your thought leaders representing Conservative Inc. sharing their homework assignments. Matt Walsh responds and says that Charlie's and Jack's posts were in direct response to mine, which you guys tweeted the exact same thing. Matt, you're taking orders. You're taking orders from someone. Just be honest. Just be honest. It's the exact same wording. Like, what are you doing? Anyway, which you've cut out for the sake of making whatever dumbass point you're trying to make here. I said something and then Charlie and Jack agreed with it and literally used the exact same phrasing, wording, terminology. Got it. I know it's embarrassing to be called out for being a puppet, but if the shoe fits.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.